Welcome to Resonance, podcast by XIII Andrade, talking about bass, effects, and life things. This is episode 3, and just want to thank you for coming through yet again to hear about my original music, the life things, the bass and music scene that I'm a part of, and just enjoying whatever effects I feel like highlighting at this time. But more than effects at this time, I want to talk about Thursday night of last week when I played with the Abella Trio. Had a great time with the trio, and the highlight of the night was the very last two pieces where a gentleman walked in with his instrument, and as any musician will immediately start asking is, what do they play, right? There's this elongated type of rectangular case, and it could be a number of things, right? Is it a saxophone? Is it a trumpet? Is it a violin, right? And lo and behold, this gentleman asked if he could sit in, and to our surprise, he had a viola with him. And the story is that he was in town for a Philharmonic rehearsal, and the cool thing was that, immediately one thinks Philharmonic, okay, on the classical end of things, we're a cover band. We're on the jazz side of things, R&B and whatnot, and how will this fit into our situation, right? Can he improvise, right? Is the real question. Let alone know the lead to whatever given pop tune or R&B tune we were playing, and to be fair, like there was no like, why is this guy coming on stage the last couple of songs? It was more like, hey, this guy, seems confident. He's definitely willing to put himself out there. That's already commendable. But if you've been around the live music scene long enough, you get people that occasionally will say, I can sing, or I play an instrument, and every once in a while a band will kind of give them that opportunity, and then you're like, oh, that was not a good choice, but it happens occasionally, and I guess you learn to choose your battles a little more here and there. Granted, I was not spearheading this Thursday night gig, so I didn't make that call. But what was great was that this guy could play. I mean, he shredded nicely his solos, and again, to our surprise, even though we ended up playing some more mainstream pop tune, we ended up tagging, us nerding out, we ended up tagging Spain by Chick Corea at the end of one of the tunes, and he knew the head. He blew over the changes and killed it, right? And so it was a great ending to the night, being able to just end on a high note musically on so many levels with a new acquaintance. So it was really nice to hang out with him afterwards, talk shop, just get to know him a little bit more. And I think that's one of the great things about music. You can be doing something on the regular, routine, right? Doing a gig week in, week out. Maybe some of the same tunes, maybe material that's recycled over and over from week to week. But every rendition is going to be different. At least I think most of us that play with each other in this trio, we definitely try to innovate and create new textures, take some risks, whether it's in our solos or through some sort of harmonic accompaniment, some sort of harmonic contribution or rhythmic contribution. And this was a risk, right? Can this guy play? Let's bring him up. And it was definitely the right call. It was definitely the highlight of the night for me. And that was my only gig last weekend. I ended up not having anything else scheduled other than my Sunday service. But Saturday night, I ended up going with my lovely wife to go see John Legend in concert. And so that was a really big deal because, for one, we actually got childcare in order, which is rare, but we were able to, get our three little ones taken care of and allow them to be at their grandma's house, right, to spend the night and let us be, just a couple being able to hit the road and go see John Legend in concert. So that was a great time to enjoy each other and some great music. And truth is, we have seen John Legend before. This past weekend, we saw him in Sacramento, but the time before that, about 4 years ago, we ended up seeing him in Las Vegas. And this is a story that is worth telling, worth recalling, and I, for one, will never forget. It's one of those things that I did the long post kind of thing after that weekend, right? One, to showcase, what a great time we had, right? For memory's sake, my beautiful wife having a great time. But there's more. Right? As musicians, we have a hard time saying no to gigs. And the reality was that around that time, I was still hiring out my cover band called Down For You. And even though it was towards the end of its 5 years of really like hitting it hard, gigging and me pulling strings to book shows and whether they were private or public, this is one of the last things where I really did pull some strings. And let me tell you, I had just gotten into another band, another local band, and for some reason I got hit up to book my band for this outdoor event, right? Big stage. It was an anniversary deal out of town, right? About 45 minutes from Fresno, my hometown. And I did appreciate and felt humbled to be approached about it, to try to go ahead and lock in our group for this event, this special event. And I was like, oh my goodness, this is the day after the John Legend concert. And it wasn't enough to try to just book my band, right? I ended up booking not just Down For You, but the other band that I had just gotten into, and told the guy, coordinating all the music part together, all the bands and whatnot. Yes, I have Down For You ready to go. We can do it. And I also have another band that we can go ahead and have to open up for as well. And I'm thinking, well, they need more bands and they want variety. So if I can be in both, why not, right? Let's face it. How many of you would do that? How many of you have done that? I'm going to go ahead and just, gig all night, right, type of thing. So I ended up, working out the details, creating the invoice, all the logistics, right? It wasn't just like an easy, yes, we'll be there kind of thing. There was a lot of communication involved, and, not booking just one band, but both, right? Two different bands back to back out of town the day after the John Legend concert. So, I was excited to go ahead and get the green light from the booking agent, right? Like, yes, we're going to use both your bands. Yes, we've agreed to terms, the times, the payout, right? What it's going to take to get you guys out here. And I was excited. I was like, man, this is going to be a great weekend. We're going to see John Legend. And I'm going to have two shows back to back the next day, blah, blah, blah. And to be fair, even though things were, kind of close, the flight from Fresno to Las Vegas, I don't remember how long it takes. Was it 30 minutes to an hour long? I don't know. I have terrible memory, and I've only been to Las Vegas that one time, right? I've only been there once. But, and at least by plane, right? So we end up flying and getting there and having a lovely dinner. We see John Legend. We had a blast singing to all his tunes, right? Those are tunes that we would sing in the car together, long before seeing him, obviously, live then. But then, we eventually, get to our room, get some rest. We get up early. to make sure that we're not late for our flight back to Fresno. And my logic with booking the 2 gigs was, okay, these gigs are in the evening. Our flight takes off in the morning. If something, is delayed an hour to, or 3, we're gonna be fine, right? And we end up getting this text message like shortly after waking up to get ready, that our flight has been delayed. I forget, it was like 7 or 8 hours. And I'm like, you have got to be kidding me. Like that's not going to work. It's not going to allow me enough time to get home, grab my stuff, and then drive 45 minutes to an hour out of town to get to the first gig, right? The first band, and then followed that by, my cover band. And so it was definitely like, oh, this really sucks. Like, is this really not going to happen? I'm in this frozen mode type thing, freaking out and like ready to text the guys like, hey, you might have to do the show without me kind of thing. And even though I was pretty much like, unable to brainstorm or problem solve, my amazing wife was just so clear headed. And she was one of those like, man, if I ever needed somebody on my side, on my team, to get something done that I couldn't do myself or think of, it would be her, right? And it was her. She was like, all right, let's book an Uber, let's get over here, blah, blah, let's rent a car, and we'll figure out the logistics for getting a refund for the plane flight we're not taking, all that stuff. Bam, 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 bam. Like, she was just in kick butt mode, and I was just super amazed, but also like stressed out. Like, is this really happening? Not so much lack of faith in her, more like, first of all, upset at the fact that a flight would be delayed so terribly long, right? And then again, after everything kind of blew over, and with after that weekend, I ended up hearing like, oh, that happens frequently with that airline, and sometimes it's about the numbers game. Like, they'll just go ahead and delay stuff or cancel flights because they didn't get enough people on board. Okay, so not gonna mention any airlines, but you can imagine which ones were potentially involved, and it was a mess, right, for me, and lack of faith in like, okay, I could do this, and trust that an airline's going to come through at least within the first few hours of departure time, right? Anyway, so we ended up getting the car, and even then, right, even by the time we got the actual rental and booked it home, it was tight. It was quite the drive, and we did get home safe. We were able to drop off the rental, get our car from the airport, and tag home, grab my gear, and then book it to the out-of-town gig. And even with all that crazy chaos, if it hadn't been for my wife, I wouldn't have arrived even before anybody else in the band had arrived as well. I mean, I still got there first. I still got there on time, as late as I would have wanted to be in any given situation before needing to have my setup, routine started and get everything completed, sound check and everything. Everything went fine, right? But talk about an adrenaline rush, and the fact that there was no room for error, right? Getting a speeding ticket, getting into an accident, a tire blowing out, needing to use the restroom only as needed, right? Pit stop, getting grub on the go, right? On the road where we're eating in the car, right? Fast food, yes, sir. Processed food, yes, thank you. Please and thank you, right? There's little room for error and not much flexibility for downtime, right? It was quite a long ride, and we were stiff, and my wife, again, to her credit, she was the MVP, and also just my ride or die in so many ways, right? Just being able to go ahead and muscle through that whole thing with me, physically, mentally, emotionally, trying to just make sure that I was level-headed, and that we were both doing this together, right? To get home safely. And, my gig was now kind of like our gig to get to, right, type of thing. So yes, that was quite the weekend, quite the legendary weekend. Get it, John? Okay, I'm a dad. I can say dad jokes. Yes. So John Legend, amazing first concert, huge production in Las Vegas, and ever so memorable. And just, all his stuff is great on record, but him live is just exponentially all the more amazing. His whole band killed it, of course. And this past weekend, he had a smaller group, and it was a more intimate theater type of setting. And even so, the band was killing. And even though there wasn't as much going on production-wise with, lights and machines and dance routines and all this other stuff, it was equally entertaining, musically impressive, and just, I would definitely see him a third and fourth time, if and when the time comes, if we can afford to get out and go. And again, I didn't have a gig the next day, which was nice, but it was also one of those things where, even though it was stressful 4 years ago to follow that amazing concert with the whole, long ride back, to try to make my 2 gigs that I worked hard to get, right? And I wasn't trying to let anybody down, not the band, not the booking agent. It was one of those things where, in some ways, I'm grateful that it happened, because it built capacity. It built capacity for me, and my wife, and just appreciation of my wife too, right? To see how amazing she is, like what she's capable of doing when things get tough, when things don't go right, even just on a music spectrum thing that really isn't her baby, right? It's not. It wasn't her gig, and for her to still be in cahoots with me, right? Being equally invested at the time, and doing more than I probably could have done on my own. If I had been on my own, I don't know what I would have done. I'd hate to think that I would have just frozen for a little too long and then tried to get things going a little too late, and not have made it on time, right? So, ever grateful for that story, my beautiful wife, and again, John Legend. Glad he's in our world and alive today to share some amazing music. Which, it's insane how many of his tunes we end up doing in the Abella Trio and other bands that I've been in, right, including Down For You, and just, I think, there's a lot of people that we cover, but he's one of the top for sure, in my opinion. I really hope that he keeps producing music, and that whatever is to be made in the future, that it gives us an opportunity to say, hey, yeah, we would like to innovate with that music, even if it's just in a cover band situation. Okay, I think that wraps it up for the John Legend portion / past 4-year trauma experience and hopefully growth, right, in learning to not trust airlines and or have some sort of plan B should you try to book something so closely or revolving around airlines and having to cover several miles, right? I want to talk about the new edition of my pedal board, and I've been pretty fixed on all my pedals, on the double-decker modular, custom tiered system that I developed a year ago, and my short board. Yes, those 2 boards have like 99% been just what I wanted, what I need, and the only pedal in question that I was unsure about switching out or keeping was the Aguilar Optimizer pedal, and it was always in question from the get-go, just because I have a few other octave pedal options, right? Whether it's in the Ampero 2 or it's in one of the 2 Zoom MS60B pedals, and I actually have an EHX Pico Pog. That Pico Pog, to me, it's a great pedal, right? And just the Pog in general, regardless of the model that you have, the Micro, the Pico, the Nano, whatever the other options are from EHX, right? Electro Harmonics. I really like that polyphonic octave sound that they provide, whether it's on the octave up or the octave low. I think it's just a cool sound. For some, they want, you might want something a little more gritty, a little dirtier, a little more drive driven, or sounding. But I like having that option, a clean sounding octave option. And so the optimizer did have more of the ability to sound driven, right? The octave, and it only had like the lower octave at 1, right? So if you saw my construction of my modular board long ago, about a year ago, I had 2 ditto pedals underneath. I had one towards the front of the chain and one towards the back of the chain. And basically my short board was in the middle. If you're thinking about the chain, right? Ditto, short board, ditto, out. And essentially I had 3 looper pedals to mess with those 2 boards alone, right? You have the 2 dittos plus the Ampero 2, which has the ability to loop, right? And I actually do enjoy using that looper occasionally, and especially for recording. I actually have done several loops in that looper alone, especially for the first 6 albums that I produced this year. Back to the looper situation. I ended up taking off one because I really wanted to explore compression. I was never really about it, but there was some sale about 6 months ago or so on Amazon Prime, and I ended up finding the Sonic Cake compressor pedal for like $40 or something like that, right? A little north of 40, if that. And I was like, okay, this is a small footprint. It could easily just drop in place of one of the dittos, and it'd be a cool little experiment. Let me try this, right? So I did that, and it was towards the end of the chain, right before the last effects pedal, which is the slower stereo reverb effects pedal. And I ended up liking it. It's an always-on pedal. It just kind of, compresses everything a little bit, so it's not so wide. It kind of tames everything a little bit more before slamming into the stereo reverb, if needed, right? If it's actually engaged. But I like it. I really do have it always on when I have both boards combined in series in such fashion. But again, the one pedal that was always in question was the Aguilar Optimizer. And I ended up thinking, man, if I could just, do I want to spend the $300 on a HX1 pedal? I don't even know. I have never messed with Line 6 effects. Yes, the hype is real. So many people use the HX Stomp. So many people are about the Helix, items, right? All the sounds that they produce through Line 6. And I was like, okay. And I've heard, this HX1 can only produce one sound effect at a time. So I had these reservations about, what could actually be beneficial about getting it, right? Bang for buck. And so after enough exploration, and again, the timing and the price being right, I discovered that the HX1 has a looper option. So bam, I can get that looper towards the front of the chain, pretty close to where the optimizer pedal was. And so I was like, okay, that knocks one bird with one stone, but that's logical, right? It also has a good octave option as well, right? Whether it's a low octave, higher octave. I'm like, okay, now that's 2 birds with one stone, and you're getting all these other effects. And the footprint is small enough where I can drop it in there, and all the ports are on the front that I need access to. I'm not going to use anything on the side, not the MIDI, not the foot switch extension, whatever expression output jack or input jack. And so in theory, I was like, yeah, this is going to be amazing. Now the price, even with Black Friday sales, right? At $250, it just was not going to cut it for me. And so I definitely got a deal by a good friend, Eric. Thank you so much for holding on to that piece, right? It just, for whatever reason, right? Let's call it fate. Let's call it divine justice or divine everything, right? He still had that pedal, and it was like, hey, I'll let it go for this much, including shipping and whatnot. And I was like, oh, yes, I can do that. I will do that. I want to do that. And it was definitely the right choice. It was the last insecure, doubtful portion of that double-decker modular board. And almost a year later, right? It's pretty much a year later since I pulled triggers on all of these, the bulk of the pedals, right? And the start of the whole double-decker modular system that I've been using. And so I'm really happy that it has stood at least a limited time, right? 365 days virtually and counting. But yes, that last pedal, it fits. I just dropped it in there. If you look at my IG, you can see that it's everything's snug, everything fits. I think it's an aesthetic update. Definitely looks cool to me. I can definitely access it with my hand to manipulate things and or my foot, even though things are in close proximity. So super happy that that last piece of gear, I want to say that this is it, guys. That I won't be swapping out anything else unless some sort of some sort of idea creeps into my mind about swapping out the compressor pedal for the Tone X or something similar in footprint, something small that does multiple things, not just one. But as of right now, I'm 100% happy with what I'm getting out of the XIII, its placement, how all the routing's working, and how I can funnel that through the rest of the effects pretty much that follow afterwards, which is virtually every other pedal, right? Since the XIII is towards the beginning, it's the second pedal in, right? My very first one is the Burgundy Zoom 6dB, and then the XIII immediately follows. So pretty excited about that, and the fact that should I want to explore exclusively that pedal in some sort of stereo situation, which again, not usually running anything in stereo or any sort of parallel board, split system between the two boards, I can easily unplug the cable that's in the output jack and just use up the two stereo outs, right? The right and left out from some sort of recording. So I'm pretty excited about things to come with that pedal. Just how, new soundscapes hopefully will be information for 2026. So stay tuned. And if you don't know already, my last album of this year is coming out December 1st, album 13, which I have titled 13 in Roman numerals, right? Really excited about that one. The special thing about it is that I never thought I could get to this point in recording original music from the beginning of the year, and now we're at album 13, and never thought I'd be about the P-Bass in so many ways. And so because of that uniqueness in this whole new year, right, novelty to this year, I recorded every bass line with the P-Bass except for one track, which just has the 6-string S. Martin bass, but everything else has the Fender P-Bass. So that's why I actually included it, again, the Fender P-Bass on the album cover, right? It's something unique. It's white, we're thinking Christmas, snow, cold, and all that. So try to be a little reflective of the month, and all in all, very appreciative and grateful for the opportunities to create music, record music, and have so many people still supporting and listening month after month, release after release. So thank you so much for sticking around today, listening to podcast episode number 3, and can't wait to share more with you guys in the future. Take care.